Hi, welcome to Business Influencers with TALRadio. My name is Chris Salem, your host. Again, if you're new to Business Influencers, you found us here at the TALRadio platform, Touch a Life Foundation. And again, we encourage you to also follow us on Apple, Spotify, and also our YouTube channel on TALRadio. We are so excited. Each and every month, the show continues to grow because of you, the listeners. We are committed to your success in bringing in subject matter experts to help elevate your level of influence and take your business to the next level. For any future shows, if you'd like to see content that we haven't covered, reach out to us at chris@christophersalem.com. That's chris@christophersalem.com. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types, as well as meeting new people for the first time. Now, this is a membership program, taking all the noise out of social media, but an opportunity for you now to generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose to share content with. If you'd like to get some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we're going to have a great show today. We're going to be talking about the new game of business. So you're going to get some insights of where we've been operating in business for over, seems like almost 100 years now, and where it's going into the future. And we're going to be talking with a subject matter expert named Chris Majer. Chris is a transformational speaker and author, CEO of the Human Potential Project and the Major Factor. He's not just a speaker, but a catalyst for transformation, a disruptor of conventional thinking, and a guide to unlocking the extraordinary potential within individuals and organizations. Now, he's an Amazon best-selling author and founder, again, as I mentioned, of the Human Potential Project, which you'll learn about later. And Chris brings a wealth of experience and proven track record of success. And without further ado, we welcome Chris Majer to the show. Chris, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks. We got a lot of Chris's here. This is good.
Yeah, we got a lot of Chris's. We definitely do. Yeah, no doubt about it.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
So, Chris, I love this. I love this topic that you're gonna share with us today. The new game of business. Before we get into what that new game is, maybe if you could share with the audience that's listening now and those that will be listening later, what kind of business have we been operating from, I guess, since the industrial age?
Well, you kind of just nailed it right there. The dilemma that we're fighting against, and that it kind of took me some time to come to terms and actually see it clearly, is that most of what we call modern management practices were literally invented by guys who were born in the 1800s. They were designed to be effective for Henry Ford and his peers in the ushering in of the early industrial era. And the problem they were trying to solve then was simple to articulate. How do we take unskilled, uneducated, unsophisticated farm workers and day laborers and turn them into productive factory workers? All right. Now, the answer they came up with was simple: de-skill the work. Right. So you might have been a guy who made beautiful wood panels for horse-drawn carriages. Congratulations to you. Yeah, we don't need that anymore. Instead, what we want you is you're going to put 5 bolts on Model T wheels all day, every day. Right. So we take the work down to the point where anybody can do any particular job. Right. Now, the good news from that is that made workers like machine parts. They're easily replaceable. And in those days, there was no social safety net. People forget about that. There was no unemployment. There was no Social Security. If you didn't work, you didn't eat, right? So people in those days lived out of survival and worked out of survival, which meant that management could use what we've come down to call the proverbial carrot and the stick approach. And unfortunately, we've inherited, it's like some bad family heirloom, this mindset about work and management that, and I use the word haunts, it haunts us to this day. The basic premises were work is drudgery. And if you didn't have to do it, nobody would, right? Since they don't really want to be here, you can't trust them. So that's why we've got to keep an eye on them. And the list just kind of goes on and on. And you won't find that written in anybody's employee manual, of course. But if you look underneath some of the stuff that is written, you go, oh, hey, wait a minute. Now, So they invented management processes and practices that were all about control, supervision, avoiding disruptions and surprises, right? We want predictability, stability. And if there was anything that got in the way of that, we just kind of rolled over it or pushed it out of the organization. Now, flash forward 100, 225 years. Everybody's kind of missed it. We're not living in the industrial era anymore. There's been a historical, epical shift, and most people aren't aware of it. And what we've transitioned to, people like to think of, oh, we're now in the knowledge economy. No, we're not. We're in what we call the coordination era, right? So in the coordination era, you have a workforce that is educated, is sophisticated. On top of that, it's mobile, right? They don't work out of survival. They have completely different drivers, and they don't respond well to historical management practices that are all about supervision and control, right? They don't make things per se, but what they do is they coordinate effectively with each other to take actions that produce customer satisfaction, whether it's internal or external customers. So the key words there, the key factors there are mobilization, coordination, right? And agility. Those don't go with supervise, control, etc. Right? People are going, wow, gosh, we really need to innovate. We can't understand why there's no innovation. Well, let's see. If you've got a mindset where what we're trying to do is avoid disruption and surprises, innovation is going to have a real tough time, because innovation is, if nothing else, what? Disruptive and surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we want. So we say until we actually somebody starts to do it. All right, then, well, no. Well, yeah, but not now, not there, not you. It's in general we want innovation, not this particular innovation. So the skill set that managers need today is very, very different than what they're teaching. In business schools. I don't mean this in an overly demeaning way, but let's face it. You can get a trained monkey to do spreadsheets today, right? With all the technology that's available. There's no magic in that, right? Where the magic is in mobilizing people, and they don't teach you how to do that in business school. Well, you just tell them what to do. No, that's not it. Right. So the work that we do is completely different than the historical methodology. And I'm not doing a sales pitch here, but we're talking about practices for mobilization, coordination, and managing what has historically been seen as the dreaded touchy-feely stuff, but is really the key to moving people forward. Okay. So I do a lot of coaching with CEOs like you do, right? And I particularly love working with some guy who just got the job, because invariably he's been a senior manager. Now he's promoted into being a leader. 9 out of 10 of them don't get that this is a state change, not just a bigger office, right? Management and leadership are two different things. So I always ask them the same question. Okay, you're the CEO now. What's your job? And you'll get this laundry list of all these things that I'm responsible for and I got to do and so forth and so on. And I'll nod and I'll smile and go, yeah, that's nice, but that's not it. And you get that look, huh? So as a CEO, you only have two jobs, two fundamental jobs. Number one, you're the guardian of the mood of the enterprise. And number two, you're the architect of the future, right? Now, the whole notion of learning how to manage the mood in an enterprise, you won't find that in any business school curriculum, right? Mood management. Well, what do you want me to play? Very green music, very white music? I said, yeah, and that's the wrong mood, but you're kind of going down the right path. I'll just highlight this as an example difference here. Okay. So moods and emotions are not the same thing, right? So everybody talks about he's got to have emotional intelligence. Well, yeah, that's nice, but that's not what I'm talking about, right? It helps, just to be clear, but a mood is an embodied predisposition for action, right? And the thing about moods, people think, well, but you don't have them, they have you. That's the thing that's different, right? People who are in moods don't realize it. They just think this is normal or this is the way that it is, right? So moods come in two flavors. There's generative and degenerative. And what they generate or not is the space of possibility that your future lives in. Is that making any sense?
Totally makes sense.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So generative moods are things like ambition, confidence, trust, esprit, resolve, things along those lines. Degenerative moods are distrust, resentment, resignation, arrogance, cynicism, entitlement, and complacency. Okay. Now, there's unfortunately a direct correlation between the age of an organization and the size of an organization and the prevalence of those degenerative moods. And people always ask, well, why is that? Because you're still trying to manage a coordination era workforce with industrial era management practices, right? All it does is produce varying levels of resentment. So if I'm the manager of the mood, if I'm the guardian of the mood, I'm not saying you run around and go happy clappy stuff. That's not it. That's just kind of frivolous, annoying cheerleading. But you have to look and see what's the conversation I need to be having with my people that opens up their space of ambition. What is it that's going to get them excited? Not me, but them. How do I get them to be bought into the bigger mission? And the real challenge is we as a workforce, as a society, we're predisposed to cynicism. And you've just got to be A, aware of it, and B, do your very best to inoculate against it. So, we've got some inherent, challenges in that regard. So if I've got a CEO who's I'm making up numbers now, 500 times what the entry-level worker is, yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge in that case. The bigger issues are things you see this all the time. Every company's got a real nice sounding value statement, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Enron had a real good, they
Oh
were
yeah. And look what happened
literally
there.
chiseled in stone. in the, and you get the old Dr. Phil question. Yeah, how's that working for you? Right? And the problem is most people treat it as an artifact, oh, good, we got our own version of cat posters on the wall. Don't pay any attention to it. There's never any conversation about it. There's nothing in your review process, your compensation, rewards for, living, acknowledging, none of that, right? And then people watch, oh, it says right there, we value integrity. Well, then we're over here doing some shady crap that everybody sees. Well, in the gap between what we say and what we do, that's where cynicism springs to life. And once it gets a toehold, it's tough to get it out of there. So it's a challenge that business school doesn't prepare you for. Years and years of working financial certainly doesn't prepare you for. And what we've got now is, unfortunately, way too many companies that are kind of run by financial caretakers as opposed to real leaders that are set to lead in this contemporary world. So I'll stop there and let you ask
Well, no,
questions.
that's great stuff. And Chris, what do you feel like right now? Do you feel like companies do you feel like that the coordination area is going to force their hand, or is this something that it's just companies are going to have to make those decisions if they're really going to start to address these retention issues that are big, that are
Mhm.
costing lots of money, engagement issues, and then obviously that's impacting production efficiency and
Right.
profitability.
Well, I think the forcing of the hand has begun, and the trigger event, frankly, was COVID,
Yeah.
right? All of a sudden, now nobody's going to the office, right? So we can't very well supervise the way that we used to do. So people have they ought to have been, quote, forced to learn real effective practices for coordination. Most of them haven't done it, right? Which is the breakdown. And as you said, the breakdown manifests as terrible retention, lack of engagement. Why? Because people are cynical and resentful about the way they get managed.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What would
Right.
be some of the things that you would suggest? Obviously, awareness is just logically makes sense. But other than awareness, what are some of the things that you feel are going to help organizations to really take this seriously?
Well, I would hope that their kind of plateau of performance would be
Yeah.
a good motivator, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of companies are making, quote, record profits depending on the sector they're in. I mean, yes, they're real, but they're not sustainable, right? Because everybody jacked their prices up during COVID, right? So now we
Yeah.
got more margin, but we haven't really improved anything. In fact, while the prices have gone up, our efficiency's gone down and our effectiveness has gone down because we've got this in the office, out of the office. We haven't quite cracked the code on that one yet. And we can't, this is not a sustainable business model that we got going right now.
Yeah.
So we've got to learn new practices. And, which kind of segues me into our kind of second topic for today, which is learning. Okay. Now, our history, we started off working years ago with athletes and then soldiers, people who were under constant pressure to perform. And they were wide open to learning in theory, but we found they had trouble because they got stuck in the same dilemma that we're all stuck in now in our society, which is we've been sold a bill of goods about learning. We've been
Yeah.
flim-flammed. So we tend to think of learning as school, right? And in school, the holy grail was knowledge and understanding, right? Out in the real world, that's the booby prize. So what we learned with athletes real early on, I mean, it seems obvious, but we kind of got it drilled in our heads, was it didn't matter what they understood. What mattered is what could they do, right? It's no different here. Now, we think of, well, in the corporate world, learning, well, we'll send people off to business school for, 6 week summer, well, that's okay. But if you actually look at what happens with those things, there's a high percentage of your people that you send off. I'm not picking on Harvard, but just as a good example, to a Harvard, 6 week, little mini MBA program. Most of what they do is network with other people, get better jobs, and leave. Right? If they do there, they get the value, they come back, but okay, good. I've got one or two people that now have some new skill set or new approach. I've got an organization with 10,000 people in it.
Yeah.
What good does that do me? Well, we'll get the HR department. As soon as you say that word, everybody quits listening, right? Oh, yes, let's get the HR department. Everybody hates HR for a reason, is they don't deliver, right? Well, sure, we put together a little course, but the problem is it keeps trafficking in information and understanding. Learning has to be seen as the development of new competence, a new capacity for action, right?
Yeah. And
There.
that's
Now,
like you said, not just understanding and learning, but actually applying it.
well, the right word I'm going to use is embodying it.
That's it.
Right?
I like that word.
Yeah, because you apply paint, you embody learning. Right now, here's the part people don't like, but it scrambles their eggs, but it's true. Right now, the dilemma is that while your mind understands, and understanding can in fact occur in an instant, in the end, it's your body that learns. Your mind understands, and it's your body that learns. And the body only learns one way, and that's through practice, period. No amount of understanding ever produced competence. Now watch. So, are you a golfer? You play golf? You golf?
I do play. I'm not saying I'm a regular, but I do play.
That's okay. It's kind of like me. People ask me, "Are you a golfer?" I say, "Well, I go out on the course on occasion."
Yeah, that's me.
Anything other than that's just a matter of opinion, right? So, but let's say for this conversation that you're committed to improving your golf game. You're really serious. You want to get better, right? So if I ask you or whoever the you is, okay, if you're really committed, what are you going to do? And the answer that I get every time is, well, I'm going to go to the range and practice. I said, okay. On the face of it, that would make sense, but consider, you already said you're not particularly good. So why would you want to go practice not being good?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'll get better. No, so you're trying to tell me you, the not good golfer, are going to teach you to get better? How's that going to work exactly? Well, I said, no. Are you going to read Tiger Woods' book and then, oh boy, now I'll be a better golfer? No. You're going to get on the Golf Channel and buy some of that endless supply of stuff? No. So close your trunk so I can't see it. Okay, good. Now, if you're serious, you're going to get a coach, right? So you're going to go to the range, hire the coach, and the coach is going to say, okay, let me take some shots. Now, let's be clear. You're not going to sit there with the coach that you paid and go, well, I'm actually pretty good. I don't really need you that much, but, since we're here. No, you're not going to pretend. You're going to go, okay, let's go for it. So you take a few shots. The coach looks at you and says, okay, move your hands a little bit, turn your feet, stand up a little straighter. Now, what happens to those next few shots? They're crap,
Yeah.
complete crap, right? Why? Because it's uncomfortable. It's awkward. You're not used to it. And if the coach was not standing right there with you, what would you do? And the answer is exactly the same as 99.9% of the population give. And that is, I'd go back to doing it the way I was doing it because it was comfortable.
It was
Okay.
comfortable. That's what you see with a lot of training, sales
That's
training.
exactly right. And that's
They
why most
go right
adults
back to
don't
the
ever
default,
learn
back to what they
anything.
know.
Yeah. That's why most people don't learn anything because they're unwilling to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable. Sorry.
Uncomfortable.
Unwilling to
Yes.
be uncomfortable. So we made a little, learning, well, so we think of learning as a curve, well, the learning curve, it doesn't work that way. It's a state change process. So it looks more like a stairway than a curve. Right. Now, the hardest step in the process is, and the one that most adults avoid at all costs, is to be a beginner. Right. Now, beginner, an authentic beginner, is a person who makes all three of these declarations. I see there's some realm in which I'm not competent, and I'm committed to learn. So no BS, no blather. I want to, I choose to learn whatever this is. Two, I'm not going to fool around thinking I'm going to teach myself. That's the blind leading the blind. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to authorize someone to coach me. So, people are like, well, I said, look, the coach may not be the best player in the world. That's not the point. The coach is simply a different and better observer of you than you are of yourself, right? So if you look at the NFL, no coach in the NFL can play as well as the players. They may have been great at some point in time, not
Yeah.
today, but that's not what they're there for, right? So I'm going to get a coach. And then the third declaration, this is the hard one, is I'm going to be at peace with being a beginner. And that's hard because being a beginner is where you make all those dumb, embarrassing mistakes. It's like when I go out to play tennis, my serve looks more like, batting practice. No, it's up and over the 300-foot fence. It's a high fly ball to center field. Oh, that's foul down the foul line, right? When you're, beginner skiers, you're on your face or your butt all the time. It doesn't matter what it is. That's where you make all the embarrassing, goofy mistakes, and most adults are unwilling to do it. And that's why we don't learn anything. Now, you can see that easily in sports, right? Well, okay, I got it. Yeah. It's no different in leadership and management.
Absolutely.
The only way you learn is via practice, and you need to get a coach, someone who can see you differently than you see yourself. But in business, we set ourselves up for failure in this regard because we think, look, well, I can't. I mean, I'm a senior level manager. I can't let people know there's something I don't know.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. I can't tell people I don't know. No. So then what you do is you pretend that you do know and you make big messes, right? So pick your poison. I'd much rather have a business culture where we expect people to learn. World-class, high-performing organizations, Chris, devote somewhere between 4 and 5% of gross revenue on training and development. 4%. The rest of the companies who constantly lag behind look at that and go, oh, that's impossible. No, it's very possible. That's why they're learning. But they're not doing it on your little, seminars over lunch from the HR department. That ain't it, right?
Yeah.
So when we do programs, they last 3, 6, 9, 12 months, not hours, because that's how long it takes to put in place new competencies and get people really fluid with them.
Yeah. No, just this is great information, Chris. And I know we got to we're going to continue this conversation. But I wanted, because I know we're getting towards the end of the show and I want to give time to get people to get to know you. What would you like to close out this show with, going from the industrial to the coordination era, talking about the importance of coaching to embody learning, what you shared here, as a one key takeaway somebody can take away from today to take action?
Well, I guess the key takeaway is if you're not invested pretty seriously in developing your people, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Period. The one thing that is constant through all this is everybody says it, our people are our most important asset. Well, then act like it.
Exactly. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, put some serious money into it, but and don't be dabblers. This is the other problem we got. We have too many fad chasers. Like, oh, I'll do this for 6 weeks, and then let's try this guy. Oh, he's got a new book. Oh, I saw this. I saw this on Chris's show. Let's do that. Like, if you want to learn karate, you get a karate teacher and you study with him for years.
Exactly.
You don't study karate for 6 months and Hapkido for 3 months and Aikido for 3 months and Kung Fu for 6 months. All you're going to do is get hurt.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. You got to stick with something before you move on to the next thing. So true.
Stick it and go for it. I mean,
absolutely.
Again, we've got our own curriculum. We've got our own methodology. We haven't found any place it doesn't work, right? So, I've got 30 years of experience. Believe me, I'm a master, an expert at what doesn't work.
Well, speaking of that way, I would love to have the audience, get to know you, and what is the best way they can get in contact with you? What are you up to? Anything you like to provide them here on the show?
Well, it's real simple. Just go to humanpotentialproject.com. I mean, no more complex than that. We lay out everything that we do. You can watch videos. We got case studies. You can see my smiling face, which may not seal the deal, but that's really where it's all right there.
That's absolutely. And I want to, encourage the listeners here, Chris, to definitely reach out to Chris and the Human Potential Project. I mean, there's so many great things. So Chris pointed out a lot of things. He's been able to see this shift that's going on. And he was so right that if you don't start taking the opportunity to do something about it now, you're going to be playing catch up, or it might be too late to do that at some point. Mm-hmm. So now's the time. At least reach out to him, get a consultation call, find out, get some more intelligence, and find out a little bit more if this is going to be the right thing for you, which in certain it is, but knowing that Chris might be able to provide some insight that will help you and your organization do the very things that you've been aspiring to do, but have eluded you up to this point.
I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about this stuff. As you said, consultation costs you nothing.
Absolutely. Chris, thank you so much for your time today to be with us. We greatly appreciate you.
You bet, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. And listeners, we want to thank you each and every week joining us here at Business Influencers. Again, we are committed to your success and level of influence by bringing in subject matter experts like Chris in each and every week to share their insight, wisdom, and intelligence, but most importantly, their personal experience to help elevate your business and level of influence to the next level. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Take care.